Our guest today is the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation. He was appointed Commissioner just over 6 months ago. His goal is to make Chicago a national example for innovation in transportation and public space for the 2.6 million residents of Chicago. Prior to his appointment by Mayor Rahm Emanuel, our guest today served as Director of the District of Columbia Department of Transportation. Most of his professional career has been devoted to the private sector. He earned a degree in marketing management from Virginia Tech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Commissioner of Transportation for the City of Chicago, Gabe Klein. Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Jay. Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope most of you can stay awake after that huge lunch. It's really good. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Jay Doherty for inviting me. This is a real honor. And just let people know I'm really gratified to be here and also to be in the city of Chicago. It's an incredible city. I've had the opportunity over the last 6 months to get to know Chicago a lot better than I thought I knew it. And as I've said before, the most amazing thing about Chicago is the people, just amazing people that make up this city. So thank you for the warm welcome that you've given me. I obviously want to thank our mayor, Mayor Emanuel, for the opportunity to serve all of you in this capacity, and our great CDOT team. We've got a number of people here: Luann Hamilton, Scott Kubley, Pat Harney was acknowledged, Dave Seglin, and my assistant, Taquanda Hurst, who some of you have told me is really good at keeping you out of my office, and I apologize. She's probably hiding right now. And I'd also like to thank some of our great partners, our partners at CTA. I work closely with Forest, the Park District, the Housing and Economic Development Office, and all the regional transportation players. And then also I'd like to thank the previous mayor and the previous commissioners at CDOT, who have really done some amazing groundwork in this city that I'm lucky enough to be able to pick that ball up and run with it. So thanks to them. I've also realized I have way too many slides. So I'm going to try to go pretty quick. What I want to do is just give a sense of sort of how I see the city and a little bit of history, and then go into what we're looking at over the next couple years in terms of our 2012 and 13 plan. We're putting something together called the Chicago Fast Forward Agenda, and we're going to run through some of the attributes of that agenda. Well, the first thing to note, and it's been really exciting for me to get to see all of this, is that Chicago's transportation network really is the envy of the nation. From freight to the dual hub airport, to the incredible interstates, although I recognize that they're clogged a lot, and of course our high-performing 24-hour transit services. I'm a big believer that you have to know your history to know your past, and Chicago has an incredibly rich transportation history. These are just some random pictures that I pulled out. For those of you that think that the streets are congested now, there's a time when I think it was even worse. We had streetcars, horse and buggies, people walking in the streets, industry in the streets, and so on and so forth. And of course, a very busy river as well. There's a close-up of Chicago, of State and Madison Streets, 1910. The Chicago River, I think this was before it was straightened out. There's a little curve to it there. And then what do we have here? I believe this is Randolph east from LaSalle. And one of the things I love about this is the streetcars running right down the middle. You know, one thing to note about Chicago is that we used to have 1 million more people about the middle of last century, as many cities had many more people, including Washington, D.C., where I'm from. And we had a lot of modes of transportation, but interesting to look here, we had very wide sidewalks. The streetcars ran very regularly. And so we've lost 1 million residents, and we really want to bring them back. And I think that's a key part of the mayor's vision for Chicago, is to bring those people back, bring those tax dollars back, and thereby fund services for our citizens. So we face substantial challenges. It's not all good news. We're either first or second in the nation for auto congestion, depending on how big of a ring you draw around Chicago. We have some safety issues. We have some health issues and some air quality issues. But the beauty of it is, I think there are what I like to call win-win-win solutions to these problems, where we can make all modes safer. We can help our citizens in terms of having better health, better security, and help business and create new economies. Whoops, excuse me. And it's going to take a lot of coordination to make it happen. These are just some of the agencies that all work very closely day to day. And I don't know if people know that because I'm sort of new here, but there's an incredible amount of close work done by all of these agencies, whether regional or here in the city. And that actually includes CPD, CPS, DWM, OEMC, and all of the other acronyms you can think of. So what is CDOT? A lot of people know a lot about CTA, and I'm sure most of you here know a lot about CDOT, but many people in the public don't. So we're basically responsible for all of the right-of-way. There's 228 square miles out of there, and now there's 2.7 million residents. I think it's approximately 11,700 residents per mile, so relatively dense. We have responsibility for everything from many of the CTA stations that we help CTA with and build, bike racks, 262 bridges and viaducts. I was just talking at my table about lane striping. We're responsible for lane striping. So you can email Taquanda with all your lane striping complaints. And we are getting millions of dollars together for lane striping for next year. So all of that. And we have an opportunity to improve transportation, and as Jay said, really be a national leader in innovative transportation. Also in active transportation. And active transportation is definitely an integral part of the mayor's strategy for a healthy, clean, and less congested Chicago. But we also need to make driving more efficient. We need to work on our signal system and upgrading our controllers at our intersections, which will also help our buses. It'll also help our trucks move more freely through the city. And we need to make crucial investments in the nation's, I believe, second busiest transit system. This is a really, really important system that we have, and we can't let it languish. And I just have to give props to Forrest and the mayor for putting together the $1 billion Red Line package, of which I was able to help just a little bit. But that's really, really excellent. So let's talk about the Chicago Department of Transportation agenda for the next few years. We'll be putting out a formal agenda early next year, and it'll be online and in book form. But I wanted to give people a sneak peek because they came out today. So this is, as I said, a 2-year plan that'll align our internal efforts and get everybody in the agency aligned behind one vision, but also our external efforts. And I think something that government often forgets to do is to market themselves to the public and explain what they're going to do and then get the people behind them. Whether it's being described as a bike whisperer or whatever it might be, it's important to get out there and let people know that the government is behind certain things and the government is putting effort into certain things. And then when we launch, for instance, the bike sharing program next year, I think people will have a sense of why we're doing it, because we're telling the story. But back to the presentation. Safety first. So safety, I think for any DOT, has to be first and foremost. Or actually, as Will Evans and I have talked about, it's a big thing at people's gas. Safety on the job is very important, but it's also important when it comes to our constituency. Safety for all, that's pedestrians, motorists, cyclists, you name it. And we have basically a 3-pronged strategy of engineering, education, and enforcement. So when it comes to, well, actually, I'll get to that in a minute. I want to mention safety zones because I have it underlined here. We are creating safety zones throughout the city, 1/8 of a mile from parks and schools, and we're putting together a toolbox that we can pull from to make all of these schools and parks safe for our most vulnerable citizens. And I think this is probably the most important thing that I'll do here at CDOT. I'm very proud of that effort. Because when you look at the numbers, there's reason to be concerned. Out of 200 cities for safety, we're 163rd. 28% of the crashes in the CBD involve taxis. We have over 3,000 crashes each year. Now, luckily, that trend line is coming down, and we hope to have fewer fatalities this year than we've ever had. But it's very important to have a safe city if you want to draw people back to the city, not just to work, but also to live, to send their kids to school, and to play. And something else I just want to mention, it's financially or fiscally responsible. AAA here does some great work in the Chicago area, and they've been studying this. They've said that congestion is actually not our biggest problem. It's crashes. Crashes cost the region $11 billion per year, or $1,522 per person. So 3 times what congestion is, and the budget of many municipalities and cities. So we need to get this under control. In terms of education, our new pedestrian safety campaign is not just aimed at people in cars. It's also aimed at people that are walking to be more responsible. Everybody's probably seen the guy in the cell phone in his car, but also the person on the phone just walking into the street when they don't even have the green or the white PED signal. So we're trying to create awareness out there and constant reminders in the public way of the impact on others that you have when you're not paying attention. We're also re-engineering. The Lake Shore Drive crosswalk is back open. I have to thank Luann Hamilton, who tirelessly worked on this project, but I think it's the right thing to do, and it sends a clear message that we are putting the most vulnerable users first, including our visitors as well. We're working on a pedestrian safety plan. So the mayor has a goal of 0 pedestrian fatalities by 2020. We had 32 last year, which is 32 too many. These are avoidable. And so our pedestrian safety plan will provide the guidelines with public input to achieve this goal, but also to create an environment that encourages walking to be the mode of choice for trips less than a mile. Trips less than a mile make up, I forget the exact figure, but it's more auto trips than you can imagine. And sidebar, there is not a war on cars. Cars are a wonderful thing when used as they should be. And it's up to us to create an environment that makes it feel like people are safe to walk or to bike or to walk to transit and not use their car as a default all the time. So don't believe the hype. Speed. You've heard the mayor talk a lot about speed, the chief of police talk about speed. There's a huge difference. I actually went to a event with Secretary LaHood, the Secretary of Transportation, where they actually had a live car hit a dummy. And when that car hits a dummy at 40 miles per hour, it flies through the air and sails about 40, 50 feet. At 20 miles per hour, it taps it. There's a huge difference. You have to see it to know it. But we need people to abide by the speed limit of 30, and we need people to abide by 20 near schools. And up until soon, there's been very little enforcement. And so we need to enforce to keep all of us honest, including me. Choices for Chicago. The mayor's vision for the city, and this is probably the most important thing to him when it comes to transportation, besides understanding that infrastructure is crucial to our economy, is that we want to have the best workforce. We want to have the hottest companies locating in Chicago. And he also, of course, wants Chicago to be an international destination for people to visit, which it is, and it needs to continue to be, but also for people to come and go to school and do research and to locate and to raise families. As I said, the city has lost 1 million people over the last few decades, 200,000 over the last decade. But I think we and our sister agencies can play a big role in changing that and keeping Chicago competitive regionally and globally. In my prior life in Washington, we saw a 3% increase in population over the last decade, and we saw a 6% drop in car registrations because the city was becoming much more livable. And this is the reason people want to move to the city. It's for quality of life. So we've drafted a complete streets policy that for the most part mirrors what the state already has in law. So every project that we undertake basically has to have a common set of core values. We want consistent, safe, high-quality accommodations for all modes to serve all citizens, regardless if you're 8 years old or 80 years old or you're in a wheelchair. So let's talk about the topic du jour, safe bike facilities. I had a great conversation at my table about this particular bike lane, and somebody said, how are you going to plow it? It's a very good question, but we're going to plow it with a plow. That was the answer. But I think, you know, in this country, we tend to look at biking these days as something recreational, something you do on the weekend with your kids, and that's a wonderful thing, and everybody should do that. But, you know, in the late 60s, half of our children walked or biked to school, half of our children. That's a national number. Now, I will say in Chicago, 1/3 of our children walk or bike, but it's only 1% that actually bike and 32% walk. So first off, we need to protect them, but we need to make it safe for people to want to bike, not for people like me who do once in a while put on Lycra shorts, but for everybody, for people in this room that haven't been on a bike in 25, 30 years. Those are the people that we're building these facilities for. Oh, one more thing I want to mention here. We're having a big kickoff public meeting downtown December 10th, if you have an interest in our 2020 bike plan at 23 East Madison, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and you can give your input on our citywide plan for cycling. We were just awarded by US DOT the Gold Walk-Friendly Communities designation. This is because the agency has put so much effort over the years into ped safety. We have a dedicated team of people that work on it. We have a Safe Routes to School program. We have streetscape design guidelines that prioritize pedestrians. We have pedestrian-specific enforcement with CPD. And we have anti-obesity programs that we partner with Clock on. And that's just about 1/3 of what the agency does for ped safety. So I'm very proud of that. Transit. It's very important if you want to create a livable city to increase the intermodal connectivity and to provide high-quality transit layers that really intermesh, if that's a word, seamlessly. So when you get off the bus, there's a train there, or when you drop off your bike-sharing bike, you're at the transit center and you can jump on, and that there's information that's connecting all of this for you, too, on your phone. And so we really envision, in partnership with CTA, these virtual multimodal hubs with EV charging, which I'll talk about in a minute, bike share, car share, bus, rail, all linked together physically, but also with technology. And this is one project that we're working on that's actually going to be kicking off in, about a year, where we're going to be building this transportation center at Union Station adjacent to it, which will also feed right into our Central Loop bus rapid transit. Economic energy. So third in this agenda is the economic force of transportation. And as I said before, the mayor understands a strong connection between transportation and economic vitality. It's a very competitive world. I know some people say, well, things are pretty good right now. You know, do we really need to push the envelope? Do we need to focus on these new bus lanes and bike sharing and all this other stuff? But these days, it's really not good enough to sit on your competitive advantage. You know, we really need to move ahead. We need to lead the world and not be followers. And by the way, Chicago in the past has done this. And so really it's continuing the tradition. I think the mayor wants Chicago to be on the same footing with London, with Shanghai, New York City, and all the other world-class cities. Oops, I think I lost my place. So there's a $500 billion regional economy here. And to be successful in our efforts, we need to have a very close partnership between the public and private sector. Just as America can be leading the green tech economy, so can Chicago lead in next generation transportation. And we can upgrade our infrastructure to keep pace with need. The CREATE program, which was founded under Mayor Daley, and there are over 70 different projects, is a great example. It's a national example of the collaboration between the public and the private sector, the federal government and the local government. And we need to keep working on projects like that. In terms of freight, 25% of freight nationally goes through Chicago. And this is just one example, the Corwith Yard, which I believe has been around for over 100 years at Pershing Road and Kedzie Avenue. In 1887, it was the world's largest intermodal facility on the planet. And it's still loading approximately 1,900 containers per day, which, by the way, is a lot more than it did in 1887. Public spaces. It's important that we look at the public space as something that can benefit everybody, that it's public space for people. And by doing that, we can actually increase business along these corridors. Partnering with the private sector and communities, we have a big opportunity to maximize our streets for pedestrian flow and safety, but also to really help particularly retail business. Oversized and separated ped and bike facilities have actually shown double-digit increases in retail business in world-class cities, including in New York City. Intercity, state, and international transportation. Chicago's gateway to the world are its airports, particularly O'Hare, which is now, I believe, the world's third busiest airport with almost 67 million passengers passing through the airport. And it's going to continue to grow and to expand. All right, refreshing city life. We're renewing our commitment to be a green agency and to focus on continuing to lead the nation in sustainable streets, green alleys, and cutting-edge materials. And this is going to continue and grow under our new mayor. This is a picture of what's called a high albedo permeable concrete alley. We'd like to make this the standard in the city instead of the exception. And I think we can do it. With enough volume, there's no reason why it can't be done. Streetscapes. We're going to continue to undertake streetscape designs across the city. And before I came here, I knew that Chicago led the country in streetscapes in terms of the sustainability, the economic impact. Chicago is an absolutely amazing city for streetscapes. Curb bump outs. Obviously, they provide a safer, shorter crossing distance for users, but also an opportunity for innovative stormwater management. And then, of course, rails to trails. I'm very, very proud that the mayor's initiative for the Bloomingdale Trail is going to be a reality. It's going to happen. We have federal funding to the tune of about $36 million. And we will be working on getting this project completed in the mayor's first term, which is very exciting. I believe it's been on the books for over a decade. As CDOT assumes from the Department of the Environment, the Green Job Corps program, the city's electric vehicle initiatives, and the Center for Green Technology, we have a unique opportunity to lead the country in green innovation and transportation, and we will in partnership with many of our sister agencies. That's a picture of me in DC. Actually, we're launching the first on-street curbside charging station, which I think we'll probably be doing here as well. Serving Chicagoans. I'm going to skip some of this. I mean, basically, we want to build a strong agency, and we want to make sure that we're putting the public first, putting customer service first, and building capacity within the agency to do the best job we can for Chicagoans. We did just launch Chicago Traffic Tracker. I'm not going to go into detail, but you should go to chicagotraffictracker.com and check it out. It's the first of its type in the US in partnership with CTA, using their data to provide people real-time congestion and traffic info. With social media, giving people what they want, when they want it, on their terms. And of course, continuing to be out on the street, educating people about the responsible way to bike, including on our new bike lanes. Chicago Bike Share, we have an RFP out right now. We're very excited about this project that was identified, I believe, during the mayor's transition. I was lucky enough to launch the largest bike sharing system in the country in Washington, D.C., and we have some of the members of the team that launched that, and we're looking forward to launching it here in the summer of 2012. It would, again, we hope, if we get it done in June, be the largest system in the United States and provide really important connections, particularly to CTA, but also to Metro. And then last but not least, we have to continually rebuild and build assets. A lot of our infrastructure is between 100, well, let's say 75 to 125 years old. I don't think we have any wooden pipes in the ground anymore, but we did until recently. And so we need to make this a priority. As Forrest is with the Red Line, we need to do it citywide. And we have many, many projects that we're working on, from streetscapes to very large projects like Wacker Drive, which are hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild. That needed to be done. There are other projects where if we have a good preventative maintenance program, we can avoid a massive rebuild and extend the life of those projects. One thing I want to mention about Wacker Drive I'm really proud of, John Yonan, who's not here, our chief engineer, has done a phenomenal job. And it's a 3-phase project. It's on time and coming in under budget. So I'm very, very proud of that. And we need to continue to work closely with CTA on building new stations, reconstructing stations. Here's a new station, which is going to be done in the spring. And then there's the basics. There's filling potholes and finding new methods. There's extending the life of pavement with sealants. There's paving more and stretching our dollars significantly more with new methods and new contracts. And adding more lighting crews so we can keep people's lights on. We have about 3.6% outage rate, which we plan on taking down to less than 1% by next June. And having long-term plans for all of our assets. And then I have, let me see. In my closing here, I just want to say that obviously there's a ton of challenges and there's not a lot of money. But with these challenges also come opportunities to do things better, to do things in a different way than we've done them in the past, to be very, very frugal. And therefore, we may actually end up with a better quality product at the end of the day. And so I just wanted to close with a well-known quote by Margaret Mead that was on Maggie Daley's mass cards this week that somebody sent to me this morning. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. Cheers. Thank you.
We got plenty of questions, most of which written before you even started speaking.
All right.
Before I do that, a reminder, Thursday, December 1st, 8 o'clock, breakfast featuring someone named Rahm Emanuel, I assume you know him, benefiting Misericordia. Any questions, Jay will be happy to answer them. We have a whole bunch of questions, some of them really impertinent, and I'll save those for last because they're the most fun. No, let's start right off with one of them. Tim Martin, where are you? Look at him back there, fat and sassy. No longer a state employee. You have been called anti-car. Is it true?
No, it isn't true. I started driving when I was, I think, 14 or 15. I love cars, actually. I have a secret dream to race cars, if my wife will let me. So, no. But I think it's important to note that a healthy city is a balanced city, and all we're trying to do is balance the needs of all the different users, and also to encourage what we think is healthier behavior for certain types of trips. And by providing a safer streets for people, I think they'll make better choices. I drive a car sometimes when I need to take a longer trip or go to the grocery store, and I would drive to work every day if I had free parking right in front of my office. But since it's $5 an hour, which is, you know, it is what it is, I take the bus every day or I ride my bike, and it's great. And I found that it's a great way to get exercise, see the city, get some fresh air, and save myself a ton of money.
Okay, Gabe. A little shorter answer next time, but you're doing. You're off to a good start. Reuben Hedlund, where are you, Reuben? All right. What is the status of the O'Hare Airport Express?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. Well, this really isn't a question for me, but I have talked to Rosie Andolino, and she is conducting a study. She's also had an RFI where they've gotten a lot of feedback from the private sector in terms of what people think is possible and at what costs. There's also, I think, interest in looking what we can do with the Blue Line that we have and making it work better. We need to make an investment in that anyway. And then there's other things that are ideas that are being floated out there. So, like I said, I'm not the person to answer, but I think it's moving.
Okay. We have two questions, pretty much the same. One from your great inquisitor, Mr. Linsky, and the other one, Ruth Warrenma. How close? Not even close. You can't even say, I'm not even close enough for you to raise your hand. Okay, good. If you plan to enforce the speed limit, then are you going to start posting speed limit signs more thoroughly throughout the city? Good question. Mm-hmm. And from Ruth, from the Neighborhood Capital Institute, have you looked at safe zone planning around schools that incorporate safe passage to transit hubs even when beyond the safe zone radius? I have no idea what that says, but I'm sure you have an answer.
The answer to the first question is yes, and there will be extensive signage. And you know, all we're asking people to do is abide by the speed limit, and that's what we want. So yes, we are going to sign it. The second question, safe zone planning. We do have an excellent Safe Routes to School program, an award-winning program, and what we want to do with the safety zones is have that very well coordinated with the Safe Routes to School program, the pedestrian plan, and the Bike 2020 plan, so that they're all working together, all saying the same things, not different things.
Good. This is from Don Priest, who always prints with large letters. Don, where are you? You deserve a kudo. There you go, always there. This is a good question. In fact, I may even have a little add-on to this one. Are there any plans to have bikes bear any of the costs of their infrastructure, like bike licenses? Whoa. And keep them off Michigan Avenue. That's an add-on. Go ahead.
I actually ride on Michigan Avenue most days. On the street, though. On the street, not on the sidewalk. This has been talked about. It would be a lot of work, a lot of government bureaucracy, to be frank. And I'm not sure that the benefit at the end of the day would equal the cost. But what I will say is, when you want to push people to do something, you generally don't tax it highly or make it hard to do. It's one of the reasons that we subsidize transit. And you know, people tend to think that driving is free, but that's it, you know, driving is extremely, it's the most subsidized form of transportation, is the reality. So again, we're just trying to have a balance here, and you know, pretty soon you'd be taxing people's shoes for walking, and I don't think we really want to get there.
Next week we'll have somebody from the shoe business. There could be a lot of positive. Peter Scozzi, where are you, Peter? I know where you are, but raise your hand. From the Metropolitan Planning Council, sitting next to Mary Sue Barrett. What a surprise question. How can CDOT maximize movement in the West Loop Transportation Center to advance multiple goals? Remember, this is from the MPC, so it's a long question. Hold on. I.e., economic development, more modal connections, enhance public spaces. Great question. We got to work on the writing.
So Peter had to ask me a question that he's got a better answer to than I do. He already gave me the answer actually earlier, and I forgot to memorize it. I mean, I can tell you, I'm going to give you a good political answer. We're going to study it, and we'd like your help to figure out what to do, which we actually do. So, and thanks to MPC, they've been a great partner and a great supporter for me since I've been here. Thank you.
Obviously, he worked well in D.C. That's a good answer. I like that. Okay, now we start with here's one that's anonymous. Normally, I don't read anonymous, but because this is so off the wall, of course, you have it get read. You ready for this one?
Yes, sir.
Who should we contact you in the department with an idea for a four-way stop sign to replace unnecessary traffic lights?
Ah, interesting. Well, first of all, you can always send an email to c.news@cityofchicago.org, CDOTNEWS, and we have people that check it every 5 or 10 minutes, and it'll get to the right person. But that's an interesting question because sometimes traffic lights are unnecessary, and sometimes stop signs function better, particularly in terms of traffic calming on smaller streets. So let us know, c.news@cityofchicago.org, and we'll look at it.
All right. Call your home.
Or your alderman.
Oh, yeah, because, no, I'm in enough trouble. All right, from Joyce Saxon. Joyce, I'm going to read your one question, because, you know, even though you're on the board, we can't, you know. Reform is sweeping the city. Here we go. I understand that most of the time lost in, this is about freight rail. I understand that most of the time lost in shipping occurs in our rail yards. What can be done?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's true. People say, this isn't exactly true, but people say it takes 2 days to get here from the West Coast and then 2 days to get through Chicago. It's not quite that bad, but that's why Mayor Daley and many others worked on the CREATE program, which is an excellent program. And we just kicked off the Inglewood Flyover project. It's like a $125 million project. It'll have huge impacts. And these things are like dominoes. So you do one, and it opens up the possibility of doing 2 or 3 more. And we're short funding. Total, I think Luann will correct me if I'm wrong. It's like $3.5 billion total. We've got about $1.2 billion. So about almost 2/3 is unfunded. And so we're going to be looking for money. But a lot of the most substantial projects that really needed to be done to open up, particularly a lot of the at-grade separation issues, have either been done or underway. And so we just need more money.
Can we charge those cars rent if they're there for 2 days? No. Okay, how about a big round of applause for it? We got this.